Seeing the secretly red-eyed teenager hiding in the corner, Ning Xinyan was homicidal angry. He reluctantly pressed down his anxiousness and coaxingly persuaded him to tell the truth. Then he immediately took him to the dean's office to complain. The dean didn't dare neglect, quickly calling in Fu Xuan, Tang Weiming, and the others. Seeing the crowd walk in a line, with a very arrogant atmosphere, Zhou Yunsheng pretended to be scared, shrinking into Ning Xinyan's arms, secretly grabbing his clothes. This movement provoked Ning Xinyan's anger to come out even more, but he embraced him deeply, very gently, and patted his back softly, reassuring him to not be afraid. Tang Wei-ming and the others naturally knew Ning Xinyan, whose handsome face occupied the front page of financial magazines all year round. After seeing the two's intimate action, a bad premonition suddenly rose in their heads. Ning Xinyan also didn't say any superfluous words. He took out his cell phone and said, "This painting, called Bride, is something I personally watched Xian complete, but for some reason this Fu Xuan name is signed on it. I came here today to ask for clarification on this matter. To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings in the future, may I record this conversation?" Not agreeing right away was equivalent to admitting to harboring ulterior motives. Fu Xuan believed that they all had good covers, so he recorded or not recorded. It was no big deal, so he nodded in agreement. Tang Wei Ming asked, trembling in fear, "Excuse me, may I ask, Mr. Ning, what is your relationship with Wei Xian? How is my and Xian's relationship any of your business?" Ning Xinyan sneered, then turned to Fu Xuan and asked, "When and where did you finish this painting? Who's the child in the picture?" "I started painting from the beginning of September and finished at the end of October. I painted it entirely in the school studio. The junior brothers who share the studio can testify. The person in the painting doesn't exist in reality. I painted him while thinking about my possible future child. What sort of appearance would they have? Would they inherit my painting talent? Using the longing and love in my heart, I rendered this child's face on the canvas, brush stroke by brush stroke." As a result of his guilty consciousness, Fu Xuan endlessly babbled about his feelings during the creation process. The junior brothers receiving benefits from him frequently nodded and echoed along. Even Tang Wei Ming also corroborated with a few words. Zhou Yunsheng started painting this painting late July and completed it at the end of September. The whole painting process was faithfully recorded on Ning Xinyan's monitoring tools. Moreover, he painted Ning Wangsu. Just this infringement of birthright rights was enough to sue Fu Xuan to bankruptcy. Now, because of his guilty consciousness, the more Fu Xuan said, the more inconsistencies came out, and it was all recorded by Ning Xinyan. If he later tried to retract his testimony, it would be impossible. He'd really dug his own grave. Ning Xinyan didn't interrupt him. When the other man finished rambling, he asked Tang Wei Ming several questions. After fully collecting the incriminating evidence, he held the youth's hand and nodded towards the dean. "Presently, I'm leaving first. This matter will be sent to my lawyer to deal with. I hope a similar situation will not appear in your school in the future." Of course, Mr. Ling, please watch your step." The dean respectfully guided the two people to the door, then turned back and stared at Fu Xuan for a while. In the end, he shook his head and said, "Hurry back home and have your parents help you find the best lawyer. If you're lucky, you can still fight to settle out of court." "Dean, why should I fight for out-of-court settlement? That painting was personally drawn by me. So many people can testify." Fu Xuan refused to relent. "Drawn by you personally? You can draw Mr. Ning's son, who's several hundred miles away? What imagined future child? When I saw these words, I can't help but feel embarrassed for you." As the dean's voice faded, Tang Wei Ming, who'd always felt an ominous premonition, saw darkness before his eyes. Those students who'd committed Pre-jury started madly cold sweating. Fuxuan cried out in fear. How is that possible? Wei Xian obviously told me that the child was imaginary. The dean confirmed that everything was true, so he unceremoniously threw everyone out of his office. After today, all these people present would probably be destroyed. It may be said that they had no futures. After Fu Xuan went home, he told this matter to his parents, but his parents were completely incapable of fighting with Ning Group. Although the trial wasn't public, in order to protect Ning Wangshu from the media's wanton reporting, the Fu family's reputation in the calligraphy and painting industry was ruined. After paying a huge amount of compensation, they went abroad to keep a distance, henceforth disappearing into obscurity. Tang Wei Ming and the several students who'd perjured themselves of Fu family all successively quit the oil painting circle, dejected throughout their lifetimes. On the way home, Zhou Yunsheng timidly spoke. He has so many witnesses, but we only the baby. Will we lose the lawsuit? How is that possible? Our evidence is very full. Ning Xinyan caressed the teenager's soft hair. What evidence? Zhou Yunsheng blinked a pair of big innocent eyes. Ning Xinyan broke into cold sweat, laughing. Don't worry. I said there's evidence, so there's evidence. Please don't worry about the trial. I'll take care of it. Do you have any other paintings? Give me one. I'll fix your entry in the contest. Zhou Yunsheng finally nodded after fully enjoying his previous look. I have a painting that's about the same level as Bride. Help me send it in. Oh, right. Can the trial not be public? I'm afraid the baby's life will be affected. The media would certainly dig into the story behind the painting. Ning Wangshu would inevitably enter the public's eye. He was so small, receiving so much attention really wasn't a good thing. Although Zhou Yunsheng had the absolute strength to completely protect him, he still felt guilty about using his portrait. Ning Xinyan didn't know the inside story. Seeing him regarding his son as his own child, loving him dearly, his heart softened incomparably, and he pulled him into a gentle kiss. They looked at each other and smiled, full of tenderness. At home, Zhou Yunsheng took Ning Wangshu to the lake to sketch. Ning Xinyan left to call the Ning Group's lawyer. This kind of civil case was simply a piece of cake to the country's top law firm. The other side repeatedly guaranteed the defendant would pay the most painful price. Then he hung up. Ning Xinyan lit a cigarette and stood by the window, gazing at the big one and small one painting side by side. Just then, a travel-worn Xiao Xingfang pushed open the door and entered, pinching a credit card. Xinyan, why are my credit cards all frozen? Ning Xinyan turned around and said in a very gentle tone, Xingfang, come see this. Xiao Xingfang walked over and bent down to look at the computer screen. Ning Xinyan clicked the play button, and and ah moaning sounds instantly filled the room. Two white bodies were joining together in a variety of difficult positions. The scene was extremely obscene. Xiao Xingfang's face instantly paled. She staggered 2 steps, speaking incoherently. Xinyan, it wasn't intentionally. No, I was forced. Xinyan, please don't. Ning Xinyan ignored her and picked up the phone. About 10 minutes later, several policemen stepped in and arrested Xiao Xingfang for fraud, theft, and infringement of commercial secrets. Because the amount involved was too large, Xiao Xingfang would be convicted with the highest sentence and would have to pay an astronomical compensation to Ning Group. At the same time, the judge lifted the marriage between the two. As for Xian Yu, as early as a month ago, he'd committed suicide to escape punishment. 3 years later, Dr. Qin Li retired and Ning Xinyan decided to find another nanny to take care of his child and his lover. There was nothing he could do Both of them were painting otakus. Once they entered the studio, everything was forgotten. If no one was nearby to supervise, they would probably starve themselves to death. This was also the reason Ning Xinyan gave for why he was so reluctant to dismantle the home surveillance. This day, a beautiful girl rang the Ning residence door. She'd come to apply for the position. You're Wei Xian? Homeward journey? That Wei Xian? The girl pointed to the young man's handsome face and called out. Homeward Journey was the art piece So Yun Shang sent into the oil painting award ceremony 3 years ago. It was dedicated to Wei Xian. The teenager laid on the woman's lap in a state of extreme exhaustion, and the woman gently rubbed his hair with one hand and covering his cheeks with the other. They were surrounded by blossoming China roses, lingering on the breeze. The scene was warm and bright, but behind the youth was an endless road of thorny undergrowth. The youth's legs were curled up, and the soles of his feet were blood-stained. It wasn't difficult to imagine how difficult the trek he experienced before he came to the woman's side. This was a surrealist painting, but it carried unaltered classicism. With a warm hue, it told a sad tale. The youth was lying there quietly, so serene and beautiful that all passersby were deeply attracted by him, wanting to explore his breath, to see if he was still alive. He was so young and tender. He should not have to bear everything alone. Everyone wanted to be the hands that embraced him. When the painting was exhibited, due to the many people who really reached out to test his breathing in order to prevent damage to the painting, the organizers had no choice but to put a sign up on the wall. It read, "He's still alive." The artist's superb skill and sincere emotions gave the painting life and a soul. The painting also won the highest prize of that year's oil painting award ceremony. Wei Xiyan became famous in one go, but Ning Xinyan suffered nightmares for several months. Although the organizers said he is still alive, only Ning Xinyan knew the woman embracing the youth was actually his mother. Longing to throw himself into his mother's arms was tantamount to longing to throw himself into death's embrace. This painting hit a resolve to die. Ning Xinyan was frightened. Since then, he increased his control over the boy even more. If he disappeared from his field of vision for more than 3 minutes, he would be restless, his forehead soaked in cold sweat. As a result, Zhao Yun, who was often called to go find him, always silently cursed his boss's serious illness. At this moment, Ning Xinyan was staring at the screen, ashen-faced, watching the man and woman get along harmoniously. The cell phone by his ear creaked from his tight grip. "Can you bake cookies? My nephew loves them," Jin Sheng asked, looking at the female lead. Yes, this person was the belated female lead. "I can. Shall I bake a few for you and the child to try?" The girl's cheeks were slightly flushed, her eyes shining. Because of Homeward Journey, she became enchanted by Wei Xian 3 years ago. She never expected he would actually be her future employer. "Okay, the kitchen has everything. Just take anything you need." Zhou Yunsheng pointed to the cupboards. The girl hurriedly nodded and was about to put on an apron. When Zhao Yun speedily entered the room, he said in a low voice, "Mr. Wei, the boss just called. He said that he has already found a good nanny, so you don't need to worry about this matter. Continue with your painting. I'll send the young lady out." Saying this, he pulled the girl out of the Ning residence, allowing no room for rebuttal. Not long after, the Ning residence really got a new nanny. 65 years old, a face like a dry tangerine peel. Zhu Yunsheng looked her up and down and inwardly cursed. The damn pervert, but the corners of his mouth curved up.